Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Success Life Live and our evening edition, which on Wednesday evenings is Author Talk. I love Author Talk. I was a kid that grew up that reading cereal boxes was like a high achievement score for me. I had been diagnosed with a lot of learning issues, and they thought maybe I couldn't read, couldn't comprehend, couldn't spell, couldn't whatever. They found like 100 reasons, and I always found the shortcut. Like reading to me, that was just stress. I mean, the energy around reading was always something I hated. And so when I left college, I stopped reading, and as through life, I sort of abandoned reading until finally one day I picked up a book and it sparked an interest. And I consumed it, and I didn't even realize I had sort of read a book. And then I wanted another one and another one. And so what I learned is that I love to read when it's on something that I love to do and grow. And so my purpose is really to be able to be a catalyst of change for people, to awaken within them what I see as their possibility and their potential. And so when I get to read books and hang out with authors and talk into that space, I could read all day long. And that's why I love Author Talk. And so tonight we have with us Dr. Taunya Lowe. Her book, Results-Driven Organizations, The 4 Keys to High Performance. Loved reading it. I'm going to just do this real quick. Facebook's asking me a question, so I answered it. And in regards to Author Talk, we've got so many great authors coming up. We have so many people that either have been in authors, like last Author Talk was Sebastian about Lead Like a Superhero, and we got to kind of geek out and talk about superheroes, Marvel Comics, Batman, those kind of things, and leadership. And then tonight we get to talk with Dr. Taunya Lowe about her book, Results-Driven Organizations. I see she's in the room. I'll invite you in just a second. Give me a moment, Dr. Lowe. And how organizations need to function with the understanding of results are the end goal. You know, so often in this kumbaya kind of world, it's like, we want to build happy teams. Well, I want to build happy teams that produce results. And Dr. Lowe did a great job in presenting it and putting it together. And so after reading it, I was like, I got to have her in the room. And so hence, we have Author Talk. So give me a moment. I'm going to invite her in, and we're going to get started. Here we go. We got to do those little button pushes on Facebook, and I always feel like I'm sticking my finger in your face, those watchers. So take a moment while we're waiting for Dr. Lowe to jump in the room and share it out, like it, talk about it, tell people, especially organized. There she is, our very own, our most wondrous. How are you, dear?
I'm well. How are
I am
you?
great. I am so excited we get to be here. And so everybody, I just want you to know that I got where we go? I got the Bobo copy. I got the Hoopty copy or whatever we call it, the broke down, because your book launches tonight or tomorrow officially.
So, Eric, we did what I call a soft launch right after Thanksgiving. And right after Thanksgiving, it was on its way to the printer, and something amazing happened. I started getting a lot of celebrity endorsement from the book,
Ooh,
and I
look at
think I
her.
sent you got a sneak peek of the cover. So we had to pull it back because you can't have people like, Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank write a testimonial for your book and not put it in there. So we pulled it back, redesigned the cover to include some of the celebrity endorsement. And so the book has gone through all of this craziness over the last 3 weeks, and it is on its way to the printer. So I'm hoping Friday to make a big announcement that I will have books in hand for the people who have pre-ordered their books. Hopefully a lot of people will order their books tonight and the next couple of days so that they can get an autographed copy, because I can't promise that the copies will be autographed after the
You're going to be on a
initial
world
set of
speaking
books
tour.
come
You're
out.
not going to have time in 30 days. You're going to be traveling everywhere.
That is my plan. That is my prayer and my wish.
Well,
So,
and so when I
so
say I got,
we're
so when I
launching.
say I got the broke down, busted up version, I'm actually really privileged to be trusted with you, by you, for the book before it really kind of went public. So I really,
Yeah, it hasn't
I
gone
honor
public
this.
yet.
Yeah, I honor this. I mean, I really honor this
Thank you.
gift of being able to be here with you before Kevin Harrington got to see it. I feel special. So I feel like somebody now. I even feel better.
You
So give a
are.
little background, and then I've got my book here, and I've got all my little tabs, as you can see, of questions. So give a little background about how you came into this space. I know you're a coach. I know you're a trainer. You're a member of the John Maxwell team. But you didn't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to teach organizations how to be result driven.
No. So, Eric, I have a pretty eclectic background. I worked in the public health space for several years. From there, kind of transitioned into mental health space. I've spent a lot of time in the nonprofit space, academia, and corporate and entrepreneurship, right? And so the thing that ties all of those pieces together is my love for speaking and training and my love for taking those things that are broken and making them better. So when I got my doctorate and decided that I was going to start consulting um, full time, I decided that I knew that I wanted to do some things in this space. I'd already gone through a leadership program. I was training leadership. And so whenever I was working with a mental health organization, their issues were always challenged around leadership strategy and teams. Whenever I was working in academia, there were always issues in those areas. And so just kind of growing up and adding that to my background, to my experience, just really allowed me to, I don't want to say recreate myself, if you will, but kind of reconfigure my experience to work in a whole different um, arena, to work in a whole different arena using the skills that I've learned across the board.
And so what I love is, so I truly love the book. And I told you the other day, I stole part of the book to write a blog. I didn't like
Yes.
really steal it. I kind of like, like in college where you read a really good idea and you changed enough of the words that the professor didn't know. That's kind of what I did, just so you know.
And I appreciate that.
Because I see this book, and we talked about it earlier, I really see this book not as like a cover-to-cover book, but I really see it as like, okay, if you're running an organization, whether it's 5 members or 500, and as much as you want to create this organizational feeling and vision and mission state, like you want all of the warm, fuzzy cotton candy clouds, at the end of the day, you need to produce some kind of result. You have an obligation. And so you take it and you start to break it down like, okay, let's get off the fun cloud and into the productivity, into the results, into the systems and strategies and mindset that you need to have as an organization. If at the end of the day, the quarter, the week, you want to stand in front of your shareholders, whether the employees, family members, or stockholders, and say, yeah, we performed.
Right. Exactly. And performed under budget and performed where you didn't have a lot of dead bodies behind you and you performed in a way that put you ahead of the curve and not behind the curve.
And so I'm sort of glancing down at my notes because I love where you say strategic planning looks at the details of how you will get there. And you start out right at the beginning, like, okay, what is your strategy? Like, I love your little mission, vision statement. What is your strategy? When you walk into an organization, how do you Like, how do you cut through the BS? I don't know. I don't have a nice way of saying it. How do you cut through the BS and say, show me your strategy?
Um, Eric, for me, I just say that. I just say that. And when I go into a company, they get me. They get all of me. And so they get Southern me, they get PhD me, they get all of me. And so I let them know, if you want to work with me, be ready for me to explain to you what I see through my eyes and ask questions through my eyes. So when I go into a company and they're giving me fluff, I'm I'm going to say, where's your strategy? Why do you have all of this turnover? What's going on here? And companies that really want to move past the BS, they really want to move past their brokenness. They're honest. They lay it all out on the table. There are some organizations that I've been in, they want to be one and done because they don't want to go deep to really deal with what the real issues are.
So,
And so when we ask that question, what's your strategy? I'm looking for them to tell me, um, how are you going to stop the turnover when turnover is so high? How are you going to increase your financial goals when you don't have staff? I want to hear the strategy, because if they're not thinking in that direction, they're walking into the wilderness blind. They're doing their own version of Bird Box.
so I think Bird Box has got like 2 more weeks before it becomes the yesterday meme of the day. Um, how do you see past the mission vision statements? Like, oh, well, our strategy is to provide outstanding customer service so we retain customers for life versus a strategy. Because I know that sounds like a strategy.
No, it doesn't.
What does a
For many
strategy look like?
organizations, a strategy is our plan, our go-to plan of who's involved, what is it going to take to get it done? Do we have the right people? Have you done an assessment of who's in your organization? Don't give me the words that are on the wall that no one even knows what the mission and vision is unless they're looking at their ID badge. Um, Many.
I've been in that company.
Mm. Many companies that I go into, they're so far away from their mission, and that's across the board. They're so far away from what the mission and the vision statements are, and so I don't even want to hear the mission and vision statement. Tell me what you want to do. What's your strategy? Have you done an assessment of, can you reach these goals? And then I will go back, because I do believe that the mission and the vision should drive the organization. But many times, not all of the time, many times, organizations, small businesses, academia, nonprofits, they're so far away from those pretty words on the wall. And so we've got to give those words meaning. We've got to give them life. We've got to make our steps match what we say we want to do. So if your goal is we want to make sure that, 20,000 children have backpacks for school, how are you going to make that happen? Who are you talking to? Who are your sponsors? What's your social media campaign? They're not thinking about those things to get it done. It's just like, wow, we want to get these backpacks and it's going to happen by osmosis. No, you've got to have a working strategy.
Well, and so I love, thank you. And I think that's where I think one of my strength finders, strategic or strategic thinking, is like my top one or two, because though I
Mm-hmm.
love creative space and I can spend an entire day daydreaming, I'm like, okay, so how is this going to happen? And it's not that I have limiting
Yeah.
beliefs. It's not that I'm trying to make it small. It's like, okay, now that I see it, what is the next step, 2 or 3, that we should be figuring out on our way to
Mm-hmm.
that? And so often when as you said, people have their mission and vision statement printed on their name badge, and it's like, to provide outstanding customer support to all who enter our kingdom. It's like, okay, so if somebody called today and they weren't happy with the product, are you empowered to execute on that? Nope. Do you have the resource to send them a $10 Starbucks coupon to cover the bridge, to cover the hardship? Nope. Do you, so what is your strategy to execute on that, providing stellar customer service to everybody who enters our kingdom? I love that you won't
Right.
allow a company to hide behind a mission or a vision statement. But I also love where you talk about creating culture is the most important job of a leader, not vision. Talk about what is a company, how is a company culture and the strategy and the results tied all together?
So company culture, it's like our it's like the veins in our body, right? So if the culture of the organization is, I'm going to use the term a sick company. You've heard of a sick building where, you go into this building and everybody's always sick. There are companies, there are organizations that run with dysfunction. And so a leader can do two things. A leader can come in and continue on with the history, the historical operating factor of the company, or they can come in, start a riot, shake it up, and change the culture. And so when I see a leader that's willing to change the culture, they're no longer going with the status quo. They're no longer going along to get along. They're no longer saying, we've always done it like this. Well, how's that working for you? They see what the issues are. They see that some things need to be shaken up. And they also are not afraid to ask the hard questions. They're asking the questions about why is staff turning over so much. They're asking the questions about why can't we keep staff? Why can't we keep staff? Why don't people want to work here? Do we have the right people in the right seats on the bus and be willing to do the musical chair thing and move people around and get them in the right places? And then the cherry on top is making sure that we are operating and communicating efficiently and effectively, not just sending emails, not just exchanging words, but that I understand what's happening in accounting, accounting understands what's happening in IT, and that we're working together respectfully. And so when you have that type of culture shift, people fight that because it's not what they're used to. People will buck the system, people will leave, and then you're left with the core group of people that say, hey, I like this. Hey, I like the direction that the company is going in. And you get those people in the mindset of where you want to go, where you want to take this organization. You get these people in the mindset of really embracing the mission and the vision. So then now we can live it out in the company. And then as you bring on new people, they're no longer embracing the negative culture because it's real easy to be a superstar and then you're placed in a toxic environment and you take on those toxic behaviors.
Or you get
Only through
killed in the
culture
process.
change, or you get killed in the process, or you
Yeah.
leave, or you leave. And so only through a culture shift, a culture change, will you have a thriving organization. And so I beg leaders to look at their culture. What's really happening in this company, and what is it that you would change? I, I'm meeting with some folks in a couple of weeks. The biggest thing they want, attitude. What's going on, and how does attitude affect your bottom line?
And I have to say, as somebody who's been in corporate America and worked with corporate America, you can pretty much tell the culture from the parking lot.
Yes, you can.
And
Yes.
when you're like you're probably hypersensitive to recording that information as you go into a company. It only gets
Mm-hmm.
clear the closer you get to the door. It doesn't start when the CEO comes out and shakes your hand. By then, you're like, that your mama used to say, your first impression's already been made, so give up. Like,
Yeah.
dude, I walked through your parking lot and I saw this, this, and this kind of thing on the car, you know, the decals in the car window, or the quality of the carpet coming into the building, and this and this and this, and then your receptionist like, dude, don't tell me that your company vision is to make everybody feel important, because
Right.
it's not being executed, because that's on the wall. That's not the culture. And I always think of culture as that fragrance in the air. Like, you know,
Hmm.
I don't see it. I don't smell it. It's not happening around me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I love the idea that you don't, as a results driven organization, we don't start with, let's come together and have a vision and mission statement. Let's come together and look
No.
at what our culture is and how does our culture support, and then how do we create strategies to hold or to grow into.
Yeah. You know, Eric, one of the reason I don't start with mission and vision, especially mission, I want to know what it is, because I'm going to look for it in the parking lot with the receptionist. I'm going to look for it as I'm entering into the organization. But once we really break things down, for companies who bring me in for strategy, for strategic planning, for coaching, if we're really going to break things down, more than likely, we're going to break that mission statement too. We're going to break it and we're going to change it and make it really fit who they are.
I'm sure, like
So a
me,
lot of
you've seen a
companies
couple
and
of them. I was gonna say, I'm
yes,
sure, like me,
I was
you've
going to
seen a
say there are a
couple
lot
that
of,
have been cut and pasted off Google.
yes, or other organizations. Then they forgot to take that organization's name out. Yeah,
So I want to get
yeah.
into, see, I got lots of tabs, and I know I'm not going to get through them all, so that's why y'all just need to jump out and buy the book. The cover's going to look different because it's going to have all the endorsements of some major celebrities, and it won't come in this pretty, it'll actually be a real book, but I'm not giving mine up.
It'll actually be a real
I'm not
book.
giving mine up, because I've actually got a few places where you probably had to go back and do some edits because you forgot a space or whatever, and I love that. I feel like this is almost like the original manuscript that I'm privileged to have.
It is.
It is. You're right. It's just not the handwritten one.
It is.
Not just a poster on a wall somewhere on the. So results-driven executions. I love where you start with the stops. I know. Did that make sense? I love where you start with the stops. So let's get started with a few stops to prepare for an for mindset, for executing a result. So they got to stop what? Do you want me to read the 10? I know that.
Why don't you tell me? Because I don't have it in front of me.
And I always
I don't
do
have
that
the
to
pretty
people, and they're
cover.
like, I wrote it. I didn't memorize it. Stop making excuses.
I know, right?
Stop being negative.
Oh, yeah.
Stop wasting your energy on things that do not concern you. Stop letting fear be your control. Stop beating yourself up for past mistakes. Stop waiting and competing with others. Stop spending time with energy zappers. Tomorrow, 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 I love you is number 8. What I loved about when I read this, and it's really super highlighted in my copy, just so you can feel it.
I see.
Is I was like, wait a minute. Was she talking? And I'm like flipping through, like, because sometimes my brain stops. I was like, is she talking to the executive? Is she talking to the organization? Or is she talking to the individual?
I'm talking to everybody. I'm talking to everybody. There are going to be people, there are going to be executives that need to stop making excuses about what's happening in their company. There's going to be the individuals who continually, because of fear, they're negative, and so that's going to affect the culture of the organization. That culture is never going to shift unless you stop it. I'm talking to the teams. You know, don't concern yourself with things that don't have anything to do with you. Focus on the goals. Keep your eye on the goals. Stop trying to compete. Focus on the goals, because at some point we're all going to get to where we're supposed to be, but we're not going to get there if we don't stop doing the things that are going to create bigger problems for us down the line. Energy zappers, that's across the board. Teams deal with energy zappers. Managers, middle managers, and companies deal with energy zappers. Executives deal with energy zappers, and they don't know how to deal with them. Many times they feel like they have to entertain them instead of reconfiguring them, refocusing them, because that takes work. And so when we don't refocus this negative energy, the fear, we don't talk about it, what happens? We breed this culture where, yeah, at the end of the year, we're singing Kumbaya, we've done all this great stuff, but how much sooner could we have done it if we didn't have all of these things happening in between?
And I loved when I was reading that, because like I said, I took your book and I was like, you know what? This isn't really just about corporate America, CEOs, 500 company, 500 companies. What I loved is like, okay, how much time am I wasting with energy zappers? What is it like as you give a deck? I'm like, oh my gosh, no wonder my personal results are not where they want to be, because I continue to do the things that you keep telling me to stop. So maybe if I stop doing them, I'd have a results driven life. And I told you that's going to be your next book, but I don't think you have to do much editing to make it happen. I wanted to go over, where is it? So results-driven leaders. And so you guys, towards the back of the book, and what I did, I got to tell you, I wrote all over your book. It was funny because the first time I wrote in my Bible, I thought God was going to like slap me on the head. Like, you're writing in the Bible, like old people used to think it was like such a sacred, like, but anyhow, I was like, well, how else am I going to remember what you're teaching me? So I tore up the book with notes. But what I did under the results-driven leadership checklist, and I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 characteristics. I sat down and I scored myself. And I was like, okay, if I was on a scale of 1 to 5, where do I feel I am? And then obviously if I scored low, that's why the results are low. And so I want to go over some of the characteristics. And if you're watching live or in the replay, you hit the button, hit the share, whatever. I want you to give yourself like a little score from 1 to 5. Like, how am I doing on this characteristics of a results-driven leader? So results-driven leaders are learners. Score to 1 to 5. Results-driven leaders are in momentum or always moving forward. Results-driven leaders have ethics and morals, and I kind of said know their core values. And then results-driven leaders have an ability to communicate or focus, understand, and then I made side notes, understand that communication is not about being what you say, but about how you're heard.
Yes.
Results-driven leaders attract other leaders. And then my motto, my sort of thing was, or have leaders in their tribe. Results-driven leaders seek accountability and responsibility.
That's a big one.
Remember,
that's
we're
a
scoring
huge one.
1 to 5, because these are the characteristics of results-driven leaders, which create results-driven companies, teams, or organizations. Results-driven leaders encourage creativity. And then I put in themselves, in their team, in the organization. I know you're stealing this idea, aren't you? Results-driven leaders. Results-driven leaders have an interest in others. And I sort of made a mental note, not just like what they're doing as it relates to the project at hand, but like, okay, why are we behind schedule? Because my wife is pregnant. Oh, wow. Like, I need to know that, because though there is somewhat of a wall between us because of organizational and personal, that's going to have an effect on me. And if I'm going to lead you most effectively and create the results I want, I need to know what you come into the office, so to speak, with, or into the culture with.
Exactly.
And then
results
drivenly, and then the last one was result-driven leaders know how to prioritize. And so I had put results-driven leaders prioritize the priorities.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you get a 5 on all of them.
So I think because we're in this space, this growth space, it's not about, oh, I've got to get the A, because, you know, a lot of us type A's, we're always trying to get the A, but really positioning ourselves so that we're always learning more, that we're always learning more about how to stay in momentum, that we're always learning more about what our core values are. And sometimes they may change depending on where you are in the position that you're in. You know, what do I really value today? When you're younger, you may value, I need my paycheck. When you're mature, you may say, you know, I value my family. I value um, time off. You know, your values may change. So as you talk about those core values, and so learning what those are, communication. I think we're always learning how to be better communicators, better listeners, the words that we use, because many times the words that we use can make or break a coaching session. It can make or break um, you providing feedback to a staff member. It can make or break whether someone wants to provide services to your organization. And so I believe that we're always learning how to communicate more effectively. And then uh, seeking accountability. I think accountability is something that we all need, whether it's accountability going to work out, accountability, you know, day to day. How can I help you? How can I encourage you? So accountability, interest in others, to me, kind of goes hand in hand. Because if I know what you're dealing with, then I can help you be accountable and work with you to fill that gap when you need some help. And so it's about your, but you're, if you get a 5, know that it doesn't mean you've maxed out there, because that 5 where you are now, you could go to another organization, you could go to, you could start your own business, and guess what? You're that 5 doesn't travel with you.
So true. So true. But I think what was interesting when I sort of, like I said, I really found it, and I have to give a shout out. I think Michael's in the room. See, look at Michael.
Hey, Michael LeBlanc.
We got it right. He was the one that taught me the trick that I shared with you, that I've shared with 3 other people since. So my wave friend is making an impact. But what I did is I sort of, like I said, I love this because it feels very workbook-ish. Like I could really, and
Mm-hmm.
so, and we talked about the workbook companion that we're going to co-author on this. That I
Yeah.
think I was like, did you love that subtlety? Just like the way I did that.
I
But
love it. Speak it into
as
existence.
I saw that, I was like, okay, if I'm not getting the results I want, and if I always read things backwards, like dyslexia in the brain. Like if I'm not getting the things
Uh-huh.
I want or the results that I want, and I call myself a leader, and a leader of a results-driven organization has these qualities, then which one am I failing at? Because obviously the results are reflecting the gap in where I need to go. And that's why I did the whole 1 through 5 score sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh, maybe I'm not seeking accountability at the level that I need to seek accountability at to create the results that I want. Or wait a minute, maybe I'm
Yeah.
not as good a communicator as I think I am. And so when I saw this checklist, I thought, this is almost like a daily practice before I begin moving into an organization, moving into a coaching call, whatever it is. It's like, okay, remember, I got to be learning. I got to be in moment. Like, okay, I'm going into this meeting and I'm the leader of the meeting, but am I prepared to learn why I'm in the meeting? Because if I come into the meeting in discovery mode, I may create a new strategy that will impact the results. But if I come into this as I don't need to learn anything, I'm the boss, how do we create a new strategy to create
Yeah.
success? So I love the way you brought this this like these 2 pages are just covered up with notes. Sorry. Like,
So, Eric, it's also important for leaders to get feedback. And so to ask the question, how am I doing? What could I do better? And, or the, how am I doing? And so, most of the time people can say, oh, you're doing great. You're doing great. Well, what is it that I'm doing great? Why is it that what I'm doing is great? How is this greatness impacting the organization? How can I do even better? Asking for that feedback. Many times we don't want to ask for feedback on how we're doing because we're afraid we're going to get the truth. And if we have a culture where we can be honest, we can be respectfully honest, because I don't think we have to be honest and give feedback that is going to cause problems down the line. But I think you should be able to be honest and say, you know what, the way you spoke to the team in the staff meeting was not very empowering. And we might need to work on that because something is happening with morale. And so if a leader doesn't, if they can't be open to feedback, guess what's going to happen? That's going to be the same behavior that's going to replicate throughout the organization. How do I know? Because I've lived it.
I've actually been on both sides. I was the one that was somebody's like,
many people have.
You might want to check yourself, because the way you're talking, and I'm sure I've told the story a lot, but when I first moved south and I was in a training environment, I kept saying, you guys. Because up north, we say you guys like in the royal sense of we all or y'all, or, like, so I would say, you guys need to do this and you guys need to do that. And it was just a natural tone in my voice. Well, somebody complained to HR that they felt I was being genderizing because I kept using the term guys, and she was a woman in the room and she didn't appreciate it. I'm thinking, holy poo, like, that's not what I meant. But again, they were like, I know that's not what you want, but your communication was failing because this person shut down the minute you said it. So I said, okay, got it, received it, changing it. So because, and you will appreciate this story. You can identify my sister from the South. So I thought, okay, I'll take out any form of gender. And I walked in and I said, you people.
Right? I'm sure they love that.
Well, let's just say I was back in HR. I didn't know what I had done.
So, Eric, that's how we learn. That's how we learn. We've got to be willing to accept feedback. And it's not always a hater. Oh, they're hating. No, they want to see you thrive. And they know that if you continue moving on the path that you're on, things are not going to go well. We're not going to be results driven because people are putting up walls because of how we communicate. And so it's our responsibility to adapt. We have to adapt to what's happening. We can't expect everyone to adapt to us.
No, and so I did have to finally go in the room, and I openly apologized. I said, I understand that there's some communication issues that I, as a guy from the North, have to adapt to. And at the time I was talking very Minnesota, which, I said, I'm going to try and start to use the word y'all. But if I miss it and I say you guys or I say you people, understand that I meant to say you all. My lips just couldn't get around it. And as soon as they were able to say, okay, we now know that your intention wasn't, we're back on board. And so I think that goes to the understanding the value of the leader and the character of the leader, and then meeting the people where they're at and saying, somebody, I think it was Melanie Fusilier, a couple Fun Friend Fridays ago, said, just because you're offended, don't assume that was my intention. Mm-hmm. And I think as leaders in organizations, we have an obligation to make sure we don't offend. But if offense occurs, we have to address it with, I'm sorry, that wasn't my intention. Not like, oh, no, you misread me. No.
Right.
I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
failed to communicate to you what my full intention was. Can we start and try again? And I love that you sort of
Mm-hmm.
talk about that when you talk about the qualities and characters of a leader. I'm trying to flip to it about having trust and being genuine and demonstrating integrity and loyalty and developing intuition and relationships, that we can't be focused
Yeah.
as results driven organizations just on what comes out the other end, that we have to really focus in
Right.
on the people that are in the process. And so I got to go over because I know we're running up on the time thing, and I could be here all night. My family always worries when they see my daughter. God love my child. She looked up and she saw that I was getting set up, and she's like, "You on the phone again?" And it was like, "Yes, honey." And she just kind of like, "Oh, we lost Dad for 3 hours." Um,
Oh my
she
goodness.
wanted to do the show. I said, "Yeah, come on, get in the
You
shit."
should have invited her.
Oh, no. Oh, I'm praying for patience, seeking patience. She is, she is, she is, she is who she is. And when things go wrong with her, they just go really wrong.
Uh-oh.
She
Okay.
is
All
stubborn.
right.
She is headstrong. When she's up to,
She's a leader.
she's not a leader. She is who is Genghis Khan kind of leader. She's a conqueror, but I love her for it. So I told you the other day that I stole some ideas from you, and I wrote the blog Check Your Backpack, and I even did a teaching on Check Your Backpack. And it really comes out of
Yes.
where you talk about resourcing and to understand the resources at hand in order to create the results that you want to drive a result uh, focused team or company. I want you to go back into this idea that so many organizations, so many companies, so many individuals and teams start out with this high vision, mission, name badge statement, but talk about the resource piece.
So, Eric, I think that, we all have a vision. We're all visionaries. We all have ideas,
One idea.
but we've got to be able, be able to take those ideas and dissect them. And so, when I go into companies, and these are things that I have to apply, that I have to apply or I have applied to myself in different roles and in my own business, but how am I going to get it done? How am I going to get it done? Who do I need to know? Who do I know? Is this something that I can do, or do I need to get some additional help or additional skills? What are your resources? Because the resources, I don't think we really take that into account when we're building our strategy. Who do we need to have involved, and do we have the right people involved? I can count many times when I've been in meetings, whether I work for the government or one of my corporate contracts, and 5 of the 10 people are not the right people at the table. And so, how much time is wasted? How much time do we spend not bringing in the right resources? And so, if you want a results driven organization, if you want a high performing workplace, you've got to spend some time mapping out that strategy and making sure that the strategy, there's a line in that plan that talks about what are our resources, who do we have, and it's not going to always be the person you think it's going to be. It's not going to always be the popular work person. I think we get so caught up in we get so caught up in the shiny ball guy and not really thinking about the person who's sitting at their desk around the corner, who may be an S or a C on the DISC scale. We're not thinking about them, but they may be your greatest asset, your greatest resource to the strategy. And so I challenge leaders and middle managers when I'm working with them, who do you know who's on your team? Like, that they applied for a position, but do you know all of the skills that they bring to your organization? Many people are underutilized in the workplace. Many people are underutilized in the workplace. And if they know it, they're not going to be there long.
Exactly.
They're
And
not
I
going to be
think
there long.
what is helpful, and you talk about it in the early part of the book, is using those assessments like 360s and strength finders and discs, because people on the surface would be like, oh, we got Eric, he can do the training. I've always called myself, don't call me the pretty pony, I'll be the mule. Like I will be the last guy out of the office stacking. You know, if you say we need to stack 10,000 boxes, my hand's gonna be on the last box, which is like, people are like, really? I wouldn't have, like, I thought you would have only wanted to do the training and this. It's like, no, I'm the mule. I'll work and I'll sweat and I'll dig. And I really like strategic more than I like creative, because strategic. And so, but you may not see that at first glance, but if you, and a leader and you're developing a strategic driven company or results driven company, you'll be doing results based testing. You'll be saying, okay, what does the 360 come up on this person? Wait a minute, what are the peers and teams? I hate when you go into a meeting and it's like, somebody goes, well, I don't know, we'll have to ask Alice. And I'm like, is Alice alive? And they're like, well, yeah, she's at her desk. I'm like, and she's not in the room because, well, she's not part of middle management. I'm like, oh my Lord.
Yes, yes,
like,
yes,
really?
yes.
So you're telling me Alice knows exactly who our suppliers are and whether they're government related and they could be impacted by the shutdown, and she's sitting at her desk?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how useful is that, people? Well, because she doesn't have to label the credentials, the badge to get in the room, we didn't think of inviting her. And so I think sometimes
so that goes back to the culture
and the resource awareness. I want to put in a cautionary parenthesis that you may not actually know the resource definitively when you start out. And so I often will tell people I'm working with, like, okay, we don't know that his name is going to be Bob Jones, but we know that somebody somewhere around month 3 needs to be able to provide us blah, blah, blah at this kind of price and this kind of streamline. We need to begin looking for that person now. We may not necessarily identify absolutely what the resource is, but if we grow this company, this team, this idea to this level, at some point we're going to need a warehouse. And what's that warehouse going to need to have? And where's it going to need to be located? And what's it going to... So we may not necessarily own the resource. And I love where you talk about that future resourcing. Like, you know what? Your vision is this big. You may only be at step 1. Don't be afraid to take step 2 or 3. Just be aware that when you get to step 27, your resource list may need to change.
Exactly. Tremendously. And so I think it's also important that that's where growth comes in, Eric. You know, as your resources change, your access to resources change, you're growing, and you should be seeing it not, through this narrow view, but looking at, wow, these are all of the resources that we have available to us. Where before, when we were at step 1, we just thought, oh, just Eric and I have to do it all. But now we have all these resources, and we have the right people. So now, Susie, Mary, whatever, she's in the meeting. She's not sitting at her desk playing spades, playing, solitaire. She's in the meeting because she's being utilized.
Well, and one of the things is sort of, when I think of the resources, it's sometimes you have to earn the right to earn the resource. That, some of us, as much as I would love to have a formal recording studio with a light kit and, mics and a video editor and a sound guy and all of this behind, Oprah. Oprah giving, have I earned the right to either purchase that resource or to ask for that resource, or really, come on. And I meet with clients often that's like, well, what I need to do tomorrow is go out and buy this, 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 and this. And I'm like, you haven't even earned the right. You haven't even earned the right to that resource. Right. So what is the resource that you have at hand where you're at?
They've not grown
that will
into
allow
it.
You, as we talked about, to grow into it, to give you the momentum to be able to begin to say, you know what? We've done it in this space. I said the other day, have you taken every ounce of meat off that bone? And somebody said, yeah. And I said, well, have you sucked the marrow out of it? And they're like, nope. I'm like, then don't go to the next level yet.
Right.
Don't think that you need, and so I love, as you can see, I loved your resource chapter because I
Oh, thank
think,
you.
sorry, I like the whole book, I really did steal and tear it apart, and I've got lots of notes, and I was like, oh, that's a good idea, and that's a good idea, and I'm gonna, and like, just like lots of good ideas. But what I think you did really well was that you didn't make it like, this book is not entitled to only C-level employee or corporate members, C-level executives.
No.
This isn't designed for somebody who's creating widgets. This isn't designed only for a particular group. Like, okay, I'm a solopreneur in some respects. And as a solopreneur, I need resources. And I need to allocate my resources and evaluate my resources and consider my resources at hand as part of my company asset.
Mm-hmm.
And then who do I know that's my friend, my family, my cousin, my brother, my uncle, whatever, that might be a resource that I can use to get me to the next place? Or I might be a C-level executive that says, we haven't done a 360 ever on our executive team.
Ever.
We don't even know what everybody's disc
Mm-hmm.
profiles are. I loved when I finished with a company, everybody had their disc profile sticker outside their cubie. So when you walked in, you'd be like, oh, I'm going into a C zone. Got to put on my C zone communication skills. We've never done that. And
Exactly.
so you've done a beautiful job of saying, if you want results, you need to get some things in place, people. It's not going to happen automatically. It's not going to happen because you have a pretty vision statement and a mission statement, and that your executive CEO something somewhere, believes this. You need to get some practical things in place, and your book really outlines them because
Thank
you're a
you.
doctor. I can see why you got your doctorate. I mean, y'all, she got like reference material and statistics and surveys in here to back up what she's saying. This isn't just fluffing stuff. This is like research.
A lot of research. And I tell a lot of stories. I tell my stories in the book. My whole concept about teams. I have a whole different view about teams today than I did years ago. And when I go into companies, one of the reasons why I really, really, really love DISC is because most people who operate at a high level, they know their strengths. What they don't know when it comes to working with teams and leading teams is how to lead the team. You just know, I'm great. I'm the shiny ball. So get in where you fit in. And so that can be a problem for a lot of people. A lot of people struggle with that. And so I think it's important to know your strengths, but it's also important to know the strengths of other people and how to maximize that. It's also important to get that disc feedback and have some coaching around it. I remember the very first 360 I'd gotten. I was in my latter 20s, worked for a huge nonprofit, and we had 360s done. And Eric, they just brought them all around and threw them on everybody's desk. Well, people were in an uproar for weeks because they didn't know how to take the feedback. It's like, who said that? Who said that? I mean, it was crazy. And so now, I'll never, ever, ever forget that experience. And so now, as a consultant, I don't just sell the 360, and I use the Wiley 363. I don't just sell that by itself. Like, you're going to need some support if folks are honest and you're ready for honest feedback. If you're ready to grow, then you're going to need some support once you get that feedback. I don't want you to just take the envelope and then continue in a non-productive manner.
And I always caution around like the 360. If you're tuning in and you haven't heard that phrase, basically a 360 is where you go up and above, down and below and around all sides to find out how you're performing or what the impression is. And it's a series of questions, and most often it's done in a blind sense so that when it comes back, they may say Eric's a great communicator, but he lacks follow through. And that's not meant to hurt you. It's meant to say, okay, one of the areas that we can trust Eric with is communication, but one of the areas that we may need to grow his leadership skills is in follow through. Not because he doesn't follow through, but because people around him aren't seeing the follow through. And you could be one of those workhorses that finishes every single task that you do, that you are following through and that you are double checking and binding it and highlighting it. But because the culture around you isn't seeing that as something that you do well, either you're not doing it well or they don't recognize it as something that you're doing, and it can be affecting the team. And so, and then disc profile is really, it's kind of a communication or what your natural tendencies are. As you know, and you can probably obviously guess, I'm a very high C. I'm not. I'll leave that for y'all.
Right. That's funny.
But what I do with DISC, and I'm sure you do the same, is I like to map out a team. Like, okay, wow, this team has got a lot of I and no C. Hopefully it's the marketing and social media team. If it's the accounting team, we've got problems. Or vice versa. If it's the social media and advertising and creative team, and it's all S's and C's, maybe we need to mix up the dynamics. And so by having these different evaluation tools or these different systems in place, not only does it let me know that I've got the right kind of people in place, but sometimes on a team, and I actually used DISC once in a classroom. It was in the elementary school, and they were very focused on teaching and learning groups. I said, but the problem is your learning groups are made up of like a whole bunch of S's at one table and then a whole bunch of I's at another. And so the I's aren't learning anything and the S's aren't really being inspired to do anything. And and then when you finally break them up, are you assigning the right tasks? Who's going to be the timekeeper? Please do not let the I be the timekeeper. You know, who's going to be the person?
Oh, please don't.
And so when you design teams, DISC is great, Strength Finders is great, 360 tests are great, but you got to be evaluating those resources over and over and deeper and deeper, and not use them as a punishing tool. Like, I'm sorry, we can't hire you because you're an I. Okay, I'm not applying for.
And we're looking for 5D.
I'm not looking for the CPA position or the forensic audit position.
Right.
So,
right. My take on assessments is that, you know, assessments give you an opportunity to learn more about how this person is going to operate. And so it gives them room for growth and opportunity to stretch as well. DISC gives folks an opportunity to understand who's on my team. So the person that's always asking a lot of questions to the visionary, you know, oh, I went home and I came up with this great plan. And then you've got someone who comes in and they ask you a lot of questions. It's not that they're shooting the questions down 9 times out of 10. They're asking about things that you hadn't thought of because your head is in the clouds. And so you need that person on the team, but you've got to understand the value of the person on the team. You know, we're in such a place today where if anyone says anything against what we're doing, they're hating on us. We need to cut them off. We need to get them out of here, off with their heads. And we've got to really get to a place where we can listen better, we can communicate more effectively, and we can appreciate everyone on the team. And when I go into companies, I don't see that a lot of times.
No, and I've been there, done that. You know, I see it across. You know, somebody in the beginning when somebody would ask me a question, like I would be like, you know, bounce it back. I felt like I'd go into a meeting and have to play tennis and constantly return the serve. And I think, as you point out really well, in the characteristics and quality of results-driven leaders and results-driven organizations, be open to it. It's like, you know what? Great question.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all you really have to say. And especially when you understand that the other person is an S, or more so, I'm sorry, is a C. They don't always need the answer. They just need to know that the question has been entered into the record.
Right. How is this going to affect, and especially if it's going to be something where it's going to affect them, I'll say right now, if I'm in a visioning space, I probably hadn't thought about all the details. So I need those questions like, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, you're right. Who's going to do this? And so now it gives the team or other members in the company an opportunity to be involved. It's no longer just my vision. It's no longer just mine. It's ours. We now have ownership of it. Was working with an organization, a hot mess, because the director never allowed people to take ownership. Never allowed them to take ownership, never allowed them to be involved. And so when everything started falling apart, it's like, oh my God, you did this to me. But no, if you really stood back long enough to think, there are a lot of things that you could have done differently. A lot of things you could have done differently as the leader. And if we don't allow people to take ownership in our vision, then it's still just your vision. It's your vision of what you want to do, and I'm just a byproduct of it.
Well, and I think that's why when you titled it, you really emphasized, you made sure that the term organization was in there, because an organization is a group of living things in a symbiotic relationship to each other. And I really, I mean, y'all, one more time. There we go. I got to learn left and right now that my camera switched. Thank you, Michael. I need those stickers. Um, if you're, I don't care. If you're a solopreneur, mompreneur, dreampreneur, you're in an organization. It just happens to be called your family. And that can be big or small.
Yeah. Yes.
If you're starting out and you know that your job, the vision, the thing that you're creating will someday include other people, you need to start practicing these things now so that you're not trying to recover after the secretary leaves in the middle of a crisis because you hadn't developed the skills in order to open communication and utilize people effectively. And if you're on the higher level and already have a team of 20 to 20,000, and you're kind of already like, okay, it's fourth quarter and the targets and the matrices that we put up, I don't know how we're going to get there. It's probably just a wish and a prayer. Then you aren't driven. You aren't building a results driven company. You're like in survival mode. And wouldn't it be nice to finally have your business, your company, your organization, profit or for purpose company finally go to a level that's like, wait a minute, we're creating results. We're creating the impact in the world and our stockholders in lives that we wanted. And we're doing it in a way that brings joy to our clients and our customers and ourselves.
Let's not forget, if you're a nonprofit organization, if you are a church, I've worked with some churches and I've gone in and I've done some work with their executive teams. Churches don't realize there's more involved in a church than what you see on Sunday. On Sunday, you're at church, but Monday through Friday,
it's a
they're
business
a company.
Behind the Sunday.
They're just like any other workplace. And a lot of these things they're applicable. Like you said, if you're a small business, a nonprofit organizations oftentimes feel like they don't need, these are business skills. These are such skills. I don't need these things. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. If you're working with volunteers, I worked with volunteers for years. You need these skills. If you're working with teams, if you're sponsorships, all of this, you need these skills. You need these skills.
And that's truly what I love. I've got to correct you, and I'm going to shift your mind, and I'm going to make you learn it. So I don't know. Have you read Adam Brahm's Promise of a Pencil?
No, I haven't.
It's over there on a bookshelf, one of the two bookshelves I have. So he makes it's a wonderful book. If anybody, after you finish reading this one, go out and get it. Adam Braum, and it's called The Promise of a Pencil. It's a like I read it once a year because it's a great book. One of the things that
Oh my God. Okay.
he did is he quit his corporate America. He was a bond trader or something. So we're talking easy, big money, like Harvard graduate business school. He quit it and wanted to create a nonprofit. And one of the things he discovered, and the book is written about his journey, and each chapter is a mantra that he learned in order to grow his business. A beautifully written book. He said, every time I walked into an office and I said I was a nonprofit, they immediately assumed I was non-successful. Because every corporation, every business, every sponsor was in the business of making a profit. And when I said I'm not interested in a profit, they thought I'm not interested in running a business. I'm not a real business. And so he talks about changing the language from being a nonprofit to being a for-purpose company. And so when he would be in these big meetings with really $1 million donors, and everybody else would say, I'm a nonprofit, we're helping boys and girls get tennis shoes, or we're, a nonprofit, we want to do this. And somebody would turn to him and say, well, we're a for-purpose company. The obvious and next question would be, well, what is your purpose? To impact lives by doing this, that, or another thing. He had already switched the engagement. They were like, oh, so how do you do that? Well, through donors like you, we're able to fund building schools in Africa. So by changing the language to we're a for-purpose company, somebody would say, well, what is your purpose? Like, come on, what's your purpose? Well, to help educate the world. Well, how are you going to do that? Through donors like you, helping to fund schools. So the book is phenomenal. If you're in the nonprofit space, and I put those in quotation, I really highly recommend you read it. Adam Braum's The Promise of a Pencil. He actually, I think, has a whole teaching series on it. But when I now work with nonprofits, I'm like, you realize just in the statement of that, 99% of the world assumes that you're poor, dirty clothed, bunch of hippie hillbillies doing this as volunteer, that you're really not in business. You're just a nonprofit.
And NPOs, nonprofit organizations, they are businesses. I love it because I just got my 501c3 for my for-purpose company, and and volunteers like you. And so I'm gonna probably get this book for my board members and have them read it.
I look for it, but I've got like so many books on my shelf. I actually, hang on. Just tell everybody where they can get. Tell everybody where they can get the special about your book.
So if you want to get my book, and you should, actually get 2 copies of it, go to resultsdrivenorganizations.com. Resultsdrivenorganizations.com. Once you get to that website, go ahead. You'll have an opportunity to get this book, and you can get my first book for $10. So you can go ahead and get 2 for the price of 1, and shipping and handling. And I love your feedback on the book. I should have copies in my hand very soon. I'm so excited about where we're going with this book and what my vision is for companies and organizations around the world, so that they have stronger leadership, stronger strategies, stronger teams. We didn't talk a lot about teams and my team story, but it's no one does anything great alone. I wasn't able to get this book done by myself. I had to have a huge team to help me get it done. And so, and then customer experiences, not just the people that we serve, but looking internally at, is accounting talking to IT, and what type of service are you providing amongst yourself? And so these are the 4 keys to high performance organization. When you think about some of the companies that we look at, we really love Chick-fil-A and their whole concept, and Google and their whole concept. Well, you too can have an organization that has value and purpose if you just address those four keys to its smallest point, like really looking at what is our strategy for everything that we do. Are we really developing our leaders? Are we developing as leaders? And are we developing our leaders? Are we developing more leaders in our company? How are our teams affecting our bottom line? And what is our customer experience like internally and externally? Because that affects your bottom line as well. So that's a little nibble of what the book is about. And I tell some stories about my experiences and experiences that I've had with some of my clients. And I'd love for you to get the book and give me your thoughts.
You know, I'm going to be writing my review when it goes live.
Yay!
Again, results-driven organizations, the four keys for high-performance workplace. I really did love it. And you're going to drop the link. This is the other book that I was telling you. So,
Adam Braun. Okay, yeah, I'll get it. I'll get it for my board members.
I think it's on its way to you right now. If I hit the button right. But yeah, so there's.
Hey, Arlene. Hey,
I
Michael
know.
LeBlanc.
Michael, I know Michael's going to get it. This is right up, 29 mantras. The last one is, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. Anyhow, it's a great book, but maybe one day Adam will show up on Author Talk. But for today, it is all about you, my dear friend, my riot starter. You have taught me, and you have given me permission to not be afraid of having a riot in my life, in my organization, in my family. When I first heard that, and coming from you, girl from the South, we're going to start a riot. I was thinking, I remember when I lived on Ponce during Freaknik year 1. I get scared of a riot.
Oh my God.
But what you taught me is a riot is really not being afraid to live out fully into the vibration of the space that can be created.
It is. I mean, when I wrote my first book, Want to Start a Riot, Change, it's all about that. It's all about embracing those things that you want to do in your life. And feeling like you're in a riot whenever you have the big dreams, the big ideas. There's always someone saying, you're too woman enough. You're not educated enough. You're too blah, blah, blah. And for many people, they shrink down and they do nothing. And then they die. Or as they're dying, they have these resentments of shoulda, coulda, woulda, wish I had. And so my frame of reference is start the riot anyway. Reverse the riot, start the riot anyway for your life, your business, your career, but most importantly, your legacy. Because what happens when you start a riot, it shifts the whole atmosphere. It shifts your family, it shifts your business, it shifts the organization. Because now, whereas someone didn't have a framework, a model. I never knew anybody start a business. I never knew anybody that would go to Africa 2 times in 1 year and speak. I didn't know anybody. Now they know someone. Now they know you. Now they know someone who's gone and they lived abroad. Now people are saying, wow, if you can do it, I can do it. And so you live your life out loud, starting a riot, breaking through the noise, because it's the noise that causes you to not move forward. It's the fear that other people place on you because what's going to happen in the big bad world out there. And so when we start these riots for our life, our business, our career, and our legacy, what we're doing is not only giving ourselves permission to win, but we're giving other people permission to win too. We're saying, hey, you can do this. You can do it. You just got to have tunnel vision and keep your eye on the prize. So if you want to write a book, go back to school, write a movie. I had some friends, they put together a movie and it appeared on the big screen right here in Atlanta. I mean, make your dreams come true. And so start the riot. Whatever that riot is, start, because we're only here for a short time.
Well,
make it count.
2 things whenever I think of the riot starter mindset, it's those people on the side that are trying to shout down the walkers, you know, that we're coming up on MLK Day, and I think of the people that crossed the bridge, and that, you know, and were on the sidelines. What I always visualize is they were stuck in place while the people that were marching towards freedom were in momentum. And so those people that are on the sideline while you're creating that change, creating that riot, so to speak, they're stuck. They've got one job for the rest of their life, is to hold up that sign and discourage marchers from crossing a bridge. And if you find the right tribe to be in, whenever they form one of those groups or those organizations that says, okay, we're going to march, they put the strongest people on the outside, because they know how to keep their eyes focused and going forward, and they don't listen to the side people.
Exactly.
And they put the new ones, the weak ones, the important ones in the middle. And if you look at those images, and they're going to start showing up on TV here come Friday through Monday, you'll see, wait a minute, the people on the end have been trained. And so find your tribe of riot starters, because they'll say, you know what? You're a little guy. Not that your dream is little, but you haven't been through this. So let me stand on the outside. Let me deflect those signs and those naysayers and those people stuck, because I believe in you enough that you can get across this bridge with me. And when you get across this bridge with me, woo,
baby,
we don't go back. They never went back. I love the visual, because it wasn't like we crossed the bridge and they got together and said, okay, let's go back. Let's do it again. No, they're like, we can just keep going. Just keep going all the way to Atlanta if we have to. We're going all the way.
Keep going.
So you have taught me so much between being a riot starter and this results-driven organization. I want to make sure that I thank you from my heart, because truly, I know we're Facebook friends. I know we live in the same city and we've never physically touched, but you have impacted and touched my life now twice through being a riot starter, and again through results-driven organizations. And so you keep on marching.
Thank you.
You keep on marching.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eric. Thank you so much.
And when you do it, it's not always about, well, if she can do it, I can do it. Sometimes it's just enough to know that it can be done. And so keep doing it, because right now you're teaching people that it can be done. It's not that you have to do it because I did it. It's just so that you know that it can be done. And if it can be done for me, it can be done for you or something like it. So
whatever your riot is, and everyone has their own riot, you know, whatever it is. It may be riding the MARTA, whatever it is, just do it.
So they get the riot.
Just do it.
So you said the one more time with the package, because I was over there looking on my bookshelf. So rude of me to leave the room.
So results-driven organization. Results-drivenorganizations.com. You can grab this book for $20. You can pick up my first book, Want to Start a Riot, Change, Affirmations, Confirmations, and Prayers. I took all of the pictures in that book, and it's an affirmations book. And you can pick that book up for $20, 50% off the regular price. And you can get both books for, I think it's like $27 with shipping and handling.
Ooh, it's like Christmas just got extended another month.
It did, actually. So results-drivenorganizations.com. Results-drivenorganizations.com. I think it's a great book for teams. I'm actually going to be doing training on that book, Eric, with companies, kind of weaving in some of the things that I've learned to help them get stronger, maybe develop a mastermind guide. So
wait, the camera's flipped.
Wink,
I don't
wink.
know which eye I'm winking with, but I know you're going to be using that. Let's score ourselves 1 to 5. I know you were like, ooh, I'm using that. It's okay, because I stole one page for a blog. You can steal one idea from me.
We're gonna turn that checklist into a score sheet.
There we go. But
we're not gonna give it all away.
And then we could actually see, here's creative space taking over. Then we could actually say, what would it look like to be a 5 versus where you're at now? And identify the gap.
So that's what happens when they That's what happens when they bring us in.
That's it. Oh, did you hear that, people? She
That's...
went on bring us in. Well, I have so appreciated your time tonight. I thank you so much. Everybody take a moment, drop a comment, drop a share, drop a like, connect with my friend, Dr. Taunya Lowe. Make sure you pick up a copy. Like I said, it's not, I know the word organization sometimes makes it feel like it's got to have a brick and mortar and a big sign in a parking lot with handicap. I honestly took this and I started thinking of me as an individual standing alone in my bathrobe, how I should begin to implement some of these things into my life. So I do see that there is value from big to small and small to big, and don't be afraid of it, because your dreams will take you to where you need to be. And with this, you'll have the tools to succeed.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Eric, for having me again on your show.
We'll hang out. And next author talk is Michael. And I'm sorry, Michael, your book, where is it? It's somewhere. See, I've got like books everywhere. I feel like one of those people that lives in a basement. I got books piled up everywhere. So Michael LeBlanc is our next author talk. And I think it's 2 weeks, Yay. 2 Wednesdays away. And that's going to be so much fun. So until everybody, I see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. Yeah, 8 a.m. Eastern. Go out and And by the way, Friday is Fun Friend Friday at 7 a.m. with Gloria Burgess. You know Gloria.
I do.
Is she not going to bring the inspiration?
She's going to bring it.
I'm a little scared.
She is going to bring it. I'll be listening.
She's big. I got 2 powerful women this week. I need to check myself at the end of on Saturday. To make sure I may have to drink a beer just to put myself back in place. All these powerful women coming up on me.
Get yourself together.
Back in my man club. But thank you again, my dear. I will see everybody tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. Till then, go out and live your life of success. You are worthy of it, and it is waiting for you. Bye-bye.